Hey, what's up everybody and welcome back. Or just welcome if you're visiting my channel for the first time. So, today I'm going to deviate a little bit from my usual thematics of World of Warcraft and talk about a very different game. The game I'm sure almost everyone has heard of. It's the Escape from Tarkov. The game that started the genre of extraction shooters and the game that saw immense success in its alpha, and the game that obtained the reputation of the most hardcore shooter and possibly most hardcore online game out there. So, after being in development for 12 years and in beta for 8, it has finally released as a full version, which also coincided with the Steam release. Now, see, I used to play Escape from Tarkov in its earlier beta days. I have 2 accounts with approximately 1500 hours between them, and who knows how many hours in the arena side game. And man, I was so hyped up for the full release coming. I have not played Escape from Tarkov in a bit. I think the last time I played was 2023, due to many reasons. Just to list some, the game being buggy and clunky, cheaters being prevalent, and developers being greedy and dishonest. I'd say those were the 3 main reasons why I stopped. But yesterday I was ready to pull all that behind me and give this game, the game that I really enjoyed playing at some point, another go. Now, with me already owning 2 accounts and the arena, I surely thought there would be a way for me to link the game or the accounts to Steam and play it that way. But no, in order for me to play it through Steam, I had to buy it all over again. That automatically brought flashbacks of the Edge of Darkness and the Unheard Edition scandal and the fiasco. For those of you who are not familiar with it, I will explain it in a few words, just in a nutshell. See, the developers, the Battlestate games, needed funding when their game was in early alpha or beta or whatever you call it when the game is in infancy but is already available to the public. So they released this supporter pack called the Edge of Darkness. The Edge of Darkness was going for $150, which is a very steep price for an early alpha game, especially almost 10 years ago. With it, however, the developers promised all possible and future DLCs for free of charge as a thank you for early sponsorship and support of their project. The Edge of Darkness was supposed to be the ultimate edition, offering everything there is to offer or there will be to offer for players who have purchased it. Well, the players responded with a resounding yes, and there were probably as many Edge of Darkness players than all of the other versions combined together. But the developers turned out to be greedy and later released yet another upgraded ultimate version called the Unheard Edition. Unheard Edition featured a whopping $250 price tag, and it released in April of 2024. It came with features like the PvE mode, Call a Friend item, extra pocket space, and several other perks that were only available through the purchase of the Unheard Edition. Edge of Darkness players were left with a broken promise and a very rude and disrespectful response from the developers and the Battlestate Games CEO Nikita Buyanov. I would say it was the biggest and the loudest scandal in the game's history. Feel free to research more on your own, as what I mentioned here is a very general description that only covers maybe 10% of the entire fiasco. So now the developers are expecting or hoping for us to buy the same game once again for the 3rd time. That's crazy. To me, that resonates immense greed and disrespect and disregard for the players. But anyhow, I was still excited to play the game and almost called off work that day so I can start playing the moment the servers are open. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't, because I would have called off work to stare at a blank screen for about 8 hours as servers were dead on arrival and players could not get in. That again brought flashbacks of every wipe that occurred over the years, where every time players flock to Tarkov fresh and the servers crash and queue times occur. I mean, predictable that something like this would have happened on a big 1.0 release, right? I mean, I don't know, kind of is to me. Well, fast forward 8 hours. I am finally in. I am greeted with an animation and a cutscene featuring 2010 graphics and cheesy and silly dialogues in Russian. The Battlestate Games promised that a 1.0 release will feature unique storylines and an alternate endings, with only a handful of people being able to experience the same ending. To me, that sounded like an immersive storyline, a role-playing side game, and a way of experience multiple resolutions. In reality, The dialogue you have with NPCs just has two different response options. One is nice and polite, and the other one is borderline rude and arrogant. That's it. I mean, I remember Pokemon on Game Boy in the late 1990s. It had better variety of responses when going through the RP. We're in 2025, hell, in 2026 almost. To me, that's screaming a promise that developers made, realized they either don't have the time or the will to implement it, and slapped something together in 24 hours or less to say this is what was promised and intended feature. Whatever. I never really cared for storyline and RP. The online play and PvP is what always drawed me in the games like this. So, let's go. First raid. I'm in. What the hell? Why am I lagging? The frames? What are those? It still feels like 2019 version. It doesn't work. Clunky, laggy, frames drop to 10 suddenly without reason. I mean, it's still alpha garbage. Now, worth mentioning, I do have a powerful computer. I have a 14th gen i9 processor, 4090s graphics card, and 96 gig of RAM. I should not be crashing, lagging, spiking, etc. Have you seen the system requirements on the Steam page? Escape from Tarkov needs 64 gigs of RAM to run well. Are you effing kidding me? 64 gigs of RAM for this game? Our creators with a much better graphics only need 16. Why does Tarkov need 64? And I could not help but notice, I was running woods. I was running a raid in the woods. Now, my graphics are one settings below the maximum possible. And it's raining. It was raining hard. And there are not even circles on the water on the lake from the heavy rain. I mean, my main game that I play is classic World of Warcraft era, the 2004 game that runs on a toaster, and classic era WoW has bloody circles on water when it's raining. What the hell, Nikita? What did you make here? It truly feels like a browser game that took some steroids and crawled itself onto the AAA launch, pretending to belong there. In my 8 hours of play, the game completely crashed about 6 times. Honestly, I could not find any difference from when the game was in 0.7 version, or 0.8 or 0.9. Now, I have not played as much as other players have. I'm sure someone can point out the differences in the upgrades, but I could not. I could not tell. It felt very rushed, or not even rushed. It felt like the same alpha game with some slapped cinematics pushed onto Steam platform to collect sales. That's it. Honestly, that's what it feels like to me anyway. Now let's talk about the alleged 500,000 wish lists on Steam and the game sales launching Tarkov to the second most sold game on the platform. Now, something does not add up here. Now, I was playing on North American servers, and when trying to enter a nighttime raid, I was stuck in a 15 to 20 minute queues. How is that even possible? No players on the first day of the release of a game that is number 2 on Steam charts? I mean, I know nighttime raid is not as popular as daytime, especially on an early wipe, but come on. Where are the 500,000 new players and millions of old players? Something does not add up here. Now, in the past, in the earlier alpha versions, if you're queued in for a raid and there are no other players or not enough players queued in for the same thing, the game will let you join in anyway with the fewer players or sometimes even no players at all in the raid. Now, the game will queue you in indefinitely, disrespecting and disregarding players' time. I mean, nothing feels as invigorating as joining a raid after a 20-minute queue to just die in the first 30 seconds to a cheater or a bugged scav, especially if you only had 30 minutes to play that day. Now, another thing that I have noticed is that I have not died once to a Steam player. Now, at the end of my 8-hour session, I was just joining a raid without a weapon and running directly to a player spawn to die to a player so I can inspect him and see how old his account is. I died a total of 80 times that night, and not once to a player with less than 100 hours of game time. Mostly was players with 1,000 plus game time, meaning that none of those players were playing through Steam. None of them have purchased a game through Steam. So is this another lie that we will all play in the same lobby? Where are all the Steam players? Maybe they've already refunded the game, as according to Steam reviews, there are a little over 3,000 of English reviews and about 16,000 and a half of total reviews, who is mostly negative overall rating. And if you look at some of those reviews, most people that left a negative review have less than 2 hours of game time, meaning they can request a refund or already have. In conclusion, I am very disappointed, as I was very much looking forward to play and enjoy the finished and polished Escape from Tarkov, a game that I came to love in the past. But I was met with a clunky cash grab by shady developers. The word scam comes to mind when I think of Escape from Tarkov. I cannot recommend this game in its current state, and frankly, as the time goes on, the more problems appear and the game becomes in less and less playable state with more and more cash grabs and scams. Unfortunately, I absolutely cannot recommend Escape from Tarkov. Off to the Arc Raiders.